Welcome back to the Wyckoff Crypto Discussion. As usual, this information is for educational purpose only. Please stop the video and read the disclaimer. The rally in the S&P has unfolded very quickly. The spring setup has worked, and now we are resting at the resistance level. So we want to monitor how much supply comes at this level. Right now, the volume signature is quite low, and it's still constructive. And there's actually more participation in the crypto market. So we will see this today in our slide. So Bitcoin and Ethereum are holding very well, and there's even an attempt to break out for Ethereum, which I found very constructive. Gold is retesting the high. We have a massive change of character there, so we still in a consolidation. But I think that the overall picture, Roman, looks very constructive.
Yeah, and that's how it usually happens, with the rally that unfolds and then it starts attracting more and more people. I mean, just remember the sentiment even a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I mean, like everything is bearish, everything is cautious, and we were cautious as well. But we were identifying certain conditions under which the rally could happen. And as the rally starts to unfold and the price starts to advance, more and more people are, jumping on the board of this rally, and that's what's going on. I definitely see a lot of strengthening in the crypto world, and as last week we were saying that you have to take up on those opportunities. You have to expose yourself more to crypto right now. Now is the time, because you don't know the nature of this rally yet. You don't know the character of this rally. You don't know where it's going to go. But this is an opportunity for us to establish certain positions and see how they're going to start developing. And if they start developing correctly, then hold on to those. I mean, specifically with Bitcoin and Ethereum, we'll talk about this, but coming back, to the marketplace, just my quick analysis as to what might happen. 46 is a very, very important level for us. So either we touch it, either we overcome it, or we reverse from here. I think the next reaction is going to be extremely telling. And I think that in the bullish case scenario, it should go to a higher low, have diminished volume signature, has diminished downward spread, maybe, one spread off the top that is, a launch in the whole reaction, but then diminishing spread into the end of it. That would be a very bullish behavior. And then obviously the reversal from here. I do not see a rally to continue to the all-time high. I don't think it's possible here. I think that we need to consolidate more. And I think this spring and test element is actually in phase B rather than in phase C. So from that perspective, we still have a little bit more to go. But we're already seeing some buying, behind both the stock market and the cryptos.
So here we see the crypto indexes and Bitcoin. So we have published a flash update about on Friday about the switch between Bitcoin and altcoin market. So we are finally seeing more participation, and especially when we compare the altcoin index today to Bitcoin, we see that there is at least a local outperformance. We are breaking the local resistance, Roman. So volume is still low because the participation is still low, but market participants can come at this point.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about that possible switch between, let's say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, big caps into smaller caps or medium-sized caps. And yeah, that's what's going on. I really like, how we are bottoming here. We've talked about this area right here, how the price does not go lower anymore and starts to actually reverse. So last week, check out the update from last week. Was really good to start establishing those positions. And I think even this week is great because you could selectively go into some assets that are starting to show some strength.
So Bitcoin, we see that after the higher lows that we have seen this formation, we are trying to retest the resistance there. The formation is still very constructive, so we are still in our position. And I would think here to even to add, Roman, on a breakout of this resistance, maybe a second position. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we would just kind of like go through this. My yesterday message to you guys in a tweet was that this rally right here, when we are comparing it to, let's say, this rally, and even this rally to a certain degree, those rallies have a very distinct character of being aggressive on the upside and then reversing almost immediately, being aggressive on the upside and then reversing almost immediately. Now, those reversals were great because each time they were diminishing in size and the size of the reaction. So that was showing to us that supply was actually going down. And obviously that is producing a lot of fear in weak hands that, we're going to break to the downside. But look what happens, with the current rally, right? Duration of the rally is important. Why? Because the buyers are more in control. They are not just in control for 2 days or 1 day, aggressive rally. They are in control in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 days now. They are in control. We definitely had something akin to this here, which is great because this is a change of behavior for us. This could become a change of behavior on the way out. And that would suggest, as Alessio has said, a potential opportunity to buy here more or to add more, and potential opportunity to break out. Now, we still need to understand what's important here, what kind of levels. This testing level and this testing level, extremely important. If we break through that, then we're going to see lower prices. And then more currently, this level right here, just based on this stop in action, this stop in action, this bar, this bar, this bar, this bar, this bar, this sprain, and this stop in action. You kind of could see what David Weiss would call an axis line. Very important. So we need to hold above it. And this means 42,000 needs to hold if we are breaking out like this. The next target is going to be 52, 54. This is going to be extremely important just because of this. And also, I want to tell you one thought that I had. Did not say that's in the yesterday's WMD. Alessio, I wonder what you think about this. Let's look at different formations here. What do we see? We see an apex, which has lower highs. Look at this formation here. We see an apex, like this, with lower highs. Now, this also seems to have lower highs, but let me give you just one perspective here, actually two. First of all, even though history rhymes, it doesn't repeat itself. I would be surprised if we would have this type of touches, sprints, or anything of this sort in the current apex formation, because it would be too evident that that's what's going to happen. So that's idea number one. Idea number two is that in all of these three apex formations, the latest one is the only one that has higher lows. And I think it's very important. It means that they are picking up value much faster. So, Alessio, what do you think about this? Two thoughts.
Well, I've seen this pattern many times in cryptos, Roman, and I think this pattern with lower highs is a function of low liquidity. This is so typical for cryptos, where the CO can accumulate on the way down, and after that, after climatic action, the participation in the market disappears. So market participants don't want to trade this asset, and we form these lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. After that, we have a surprising rally. I've seen this pattern over and over, so
But what
I
about
totally
this
buy it.
spring? What about this spring or like a low at the support? Because I don't think that we're gonna have it here. That's my point.
Yeah, for sure, because the second formation is much stronger than the first one. So I totally buy it.
Yeah, I mean, like it would be too evident if we would have that spring. And the sentiment right now with this Bitcoin that I'm reading, of the Twitter, is that everybody who didn't get in are expecting something like this, a spring, and it might happen. How would it happen? Fail first 42, fail 37 after that, and you will have your spring here. And I would not be holding on to my position if it breaks 37. Like 42, okay, you could still do this, but 37, probably not. So what is this sentiment? It's the sentiment that of missing out. But imagine if right now the price will start advancing here. And why would it advance? Well, look into this area right here. Look at how low supply level we have, and yet it's creeping up. So it's like a feather, bullish feather, that's coming to the resistance point. And we know what bullish feather has as an outcome once it breaks loose. We are going to have acceleration, a bar like this, a stupid bar. And then this type of action, what is it going to do to that sentiment of people who are expecting a spring? They're going to start jumping on board, and that's going to extend this bar and is going to extend this movement. So I wonder, how we're going to resolve ourselves out of this formation. Okay.
Ethereum, a very similar pattern here. So I think the key is in the comparative strength, because both Ethereum and Bitcoin have created higher lows while the market was making lower lows. So there's definitely a lot of comparative strength here, suggesting that the buying has already occurred at the lows, at the first climatic action. And now, while other assets are recovering, Bitcoin and Ethereum are just consolidating and trying to have a breakout there. So I think that the actual breakout will come after, like in the second stage of the rally for the overall market. That would be super constructive. By the way, I think this is a good spot for a second position here.
Yeah, and I mean, my question here for everyone, this is the apex, right? I mean, well defined by all of these points. Did we have a breakout or not? And to me, it looks like we have. I mean, we could consider it a different structure. We could consider it like a trading range. Then we still need to have some kind of breakout, features. Again, coming to this probably level and overcoming this, that's what will trigger a little bit more of the momentum to come here. And then there will be some selling into it. So selling will increase, and especially like around this breakdown, because this breakdown is extremely important. So this is where maybe a sign of strength is going to stall and it's going to stop for a little bit. So the reaction is going to be extremely important. Would we have a deep reaction? Would we have a smaller reaction? Would we have something like this that would still, produce short-term volatility, but I have some kind of continuation after this? That's going to be very interesting. But I think that the Ethereum broke this apex.
Yes, and this last idea of the rally to 36 is supported by the point of figure chart, Roman.
Okay, let's look at that.
So we have here like a scaling is just $100 box, one box reversal, so classic scaling here. And you can look at all this accumulation, confirming count, distribution. So we have reached the support, so the target of the distribution there. And now we are counting this small consolidation. Actually, this whole consolidation would point to the top of the trading range. So there's count there, there's full there. For counting purposes, I would focus just on the last segment. And the last segment of this consolidation, so segment number 2, is pointing to 35, 36 level. So it totally supports your idea, Roman, of a rally that touches the last significant resistance level, so like the first big down bar, and we rest there. So that would be very constructive.
So sign of strength, backup action. Then we add segment number 1, and that probably brings us to this level where we had all-time high.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking, Alessio?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so something like this. Sorry for my drawings here. And then let me ask you this question. I know I'm too aggressive, but at which point would you consider, let me rephrase this, under which circumstances, how would the price should unfold in your opinion in order for you to take this whole thing as, as the whole count?
Well, I already have that count in my mind, Roman, so I think that we just have to look for another small reaction here. So we need just a small change of character in the context of the trading range. So
I would say that
would be...
once we come here, probably we could start thinking about it.
But that count is already in my mind, so absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, and we'll definitely bring this up. This is very fascinating, Alessio.
Yes, because we are trying to show a simple system to follow your momentum trades. So basically, we see that every time the crypto index that the price is trading above the 9-weekly moving average, there's room for outperformance there. So basically, all these boxes, we have Chainlink, Link, BNB, then synthetics, Chainlink, and so on. We have a lot of 10 baggers when the price is 8 of the index is able to spend at least 4 or 5 weeks above the moving average. So we have seen lately this on 0.4 and 0.5, even 0.5 when look at just a small rally, we just have 5 weeks, but that is enough to have 10 baggers in this market. So we really have to be extremely focused.
All right. Well, I think it's just fascinating as an idea that you could have 10 baggers, on different in different parts of the overall market. I also like this idea because it is suggestive that if you do your selection correctly and you execute correctly, then you could have those type of advancements, times 5, times 10. So that's very fascinating to me as a subject. So my next question, Alessio, here, so let me just entertain a small discussion here. How would you pick those 10 baggers? I mean, like, are there any specific characteristics that you have seen with this, assets that they've exhibited prior to their runs? And maybe I'm just thinking, Alessio and I are gonna do the special on crypto trading. That's gonna be in, Alessio, I think the end of June, beginning of July. And I wonder if we could show all of the charts of the assets that we have here and talk about those characteristics and talk about, like, how do you actually look at the market starting to advance, and then you start looking for the characteristics of these type of assets. I think this would be fascinating material, to present in that crypto special, Alessio.
Yes, Roman, to be honest, I've already prepared tons of case studies, and many case studies are actually traded we have done with our group. So I think it's very fascinating because we can discuss good trades, good selection, wrong selection also, because so I think that will be very, very interesting, Roman.
Let's absolutely do this. And Alessio, please send me those charts. I want to study those and just kind of like identify certain characteristics. That's going to be a very interesting special, guys. Put it on your calendar. End of June, beginning of July.
So we see here, so I received very interesting questions about the fact that many leaders right now are stalling while laggards are recovering. So This was kind of an unexpected event because usually you focus on the leadership, and when you see that leadership is not committing to the upside, you start questioning your overall bias. But look what happens here. So basically, we're showing an historical analog. So this has been one of our candidates in 2021, maybe the last great candidate for cryptos, because I remember that this asset was moving so fast while the market was showing a lot of weakness. So it was like in November was the last big time beggar that we have called before the market conditions were changing. So look what happens here. We actually have a lot of strength while the market was creating this exhausting spring in July for the crypto market on Bitcoin and other assets. So Sand was already outperforming and was testing the top of the resistance there. And after that, we had that switch between Sand, former leader, to the rest of the market. So it's kind of ironical that you are identifying in your timing is not very good because you are saying this is outperforming, and then the markets continue to rest, consolidate, flat consolidation. But look what happens next. So that initial leadership is already a good signal, but your timing has to be very, very spot on, because in this period of time, the crypto market was outperforming while Sand was consolidating. So leadership, comparative strength is always super important, but we have to focus also on the timing, Roman.
Well, I mean, I definitely cannot comment on cryptos for this pattern, but I could definitely comment on the stocks pattern and how that happens. So for instance, when we have the market in distress, and let's say we come to the last portions of that distressful distress environment, so maybe we're going into a spring, there are certain stocks that will be already exhibiting signs of outperformance. And what is outperformance? I mean, like, you have to think really like into the nature of what is it? Why is the stock or the crypto asset is outperforming? It's because behind it there is some buying. On some occasions there is no selling or less selling, which also could bring us to the outperformance. But in the majority of cases, it's just some buying. So as they are buying, and we see buying here in Sand, demand is increasing, they are increasing the exposure to this particular asset. So let's say percentage-wise relative to the portfolio, there is an increase, right? So it could go like from 1% to, let's say, 5% in the portfolio. So by the time that the market itself, and here we're using the Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is starting to show that there's going to be a big rally. They already loaded up on this particular asset. So what do? They need to go to other assets, other stocks, or other cryptos and start establishing positions there. And they have to do the same thing from 1% to 5% in other stocks and cryptos. They have to increase that exposure. So what happens with the leadership? The leadership is a little bit forgotten at that time. It's kind of like they have the position. We don't need to do anything. We're already at 5%. This is a fully sized position for us. It's a leadership stock. We're not going to buy. And because of that thought, because of that action, you know, a lot of leaderships that were exhibiting that outperformance into the still final weakness of the market, and they were outperforming, now they are underperforming. And there are some other assets, other stocks, other cryptos that will be performing better. Why? Because they are being bought. They were not being bought before, they are being bought right now. And that's why all of the small, medium crypto assets right now are starting to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. Although I think that Bitcoin and Ethereum has a very unique position in the institutional world, because you gotta have those for sure. You gotta have, you know, institutions, especially the new ones that are coming in into this market, they don't care about the small caps. I mean, like, they really don't, unless there is some specificity with some asset. What they want to do is they understand that at some point their customers will be paying in Bitcoin and cryptos, in the USDC, you know, something stable, something big. So they are loading up on that. So I think that Bitcoin and Ethereum still is a great investment. But right now, that rotation from the leadership into the undervalued assets, that's what's going on. Alessio?
Yes, for sure. And we have an example here in the next chart where we are seeing this is happening right now in front of our eyes. So basically Terra, which was so outperforming, now is consolidating there. And I'm not sure, man, if Terra is ready to break to the upside and have like a 10x run just now. Probably we need to consolidate, and this will give room to other assets like AVAX, for example, here on the bottom, to retest the top of the resistance there. So very counterintuitive, but it works.
I like this example, Alyssa. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I mean, if you would ask yourself a question, which asset right now is undervalued in the environment where the bias, the market bias right now is turning to the upside? You're gonna go for the undervalued rather than overvalued. And that's what's going on. So yeah, although we're still in the early parts of kind of like a recovery, the rally. This could still rally here, but we definitely have to keep the rotation in mind. And undervalued assets like AVAX, they look great. I mean, like this, Alessio, this looks like awesome.
Yeah.
We have the local break here, we have the structure here, we have this rally that has some demand behind it, supply is diminishing. I mean, like, what's not to like here?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm having a position in both assets right now, so I would think just to trim Terra a bit, but I definitely have a position. I've established this just today. So
okay.
And same story for KNC versus AVAX. So we see that there is definitely some supply coming here on Kyber network. So I would be shocked to see, for example, after this very good rally, the nasty condition for KNC, a sign of strength followed by a backing up action. And while the backing up action for KNC develops, the rest of the market is like is rallying. So I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing demand right here, so we're probably in some kind of more local consolidation after the sign of strength, after the outperformance. So we could go and underperform for some time. So let's just see how that happens, and let's bring it into our special in June, because it's going to give us a little bit of time to see this rotation here.
For sure. So as for my strategy, now I'm reducing my cash position. So my gold position is still there. I think that 15%, I just want to wait and see the way we will retest the high for gold. So that's super important for me because the long-term formation is still there. The causality is still there. And I think that this switch between gold and Bitcoin can really help us to develop a hedging strategy for the future. But as you can see, I'm increasing my exposure for crypto. So just 5% adding Bitcoin and Ethereum today, and the outperformance, the 15%. So basically, KNC and Terra are still there. I think that I can trim the position just a bit, and I'm allocating extra 15% in assets that are currently in the spring position. So this is a significant change, Roman. So what do you think about the strategy right now?
Well, first of all, guys, remember what we said last week. Start increasing your exposure into cryptos. There are opportunities there. And as a trader, as an investor, that's what you do. You trade opportunistically. You don't trade always, but when opportunity arises, even if you feel fear, and I know a lot of you do, a lot of you have doubts, but as a trader, you have to take opportunities because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know whether that opportunity is going to become a super opportunity, So you want to start gradually increasing your size. And I like what Alessio has done last week and this week as well. So this week is more dramatic than the last one. But that's how you gradually come in. I like that the exposure to gold is less because we definitely had a change of behavior there. We're definitely in some kind of trading range environment. So therefore, you kind of hold on to that as a long-term position. I like the diminished size of the cash position and increase in cryptos for sure. And I also like the distribution in cryptos where it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it's other assets that are either outperformance. And I also would add here, like maybe Alessio, this is what you mean here by spring position. Assets that are still
undervalued.
Undervalued, yes, exactly. Because you gotta have exposure to both the leaders and undervalued, because those undervalued assets could rotate into the outperforming position.
Yes, and I think Roman, at some point will come a moment where the undervalued asset reach the resistance, and then we can switch back to the leaders. That finally will be able to break out the upside. So this is a very interesting low cap. So we see that the relative strength line is upsloping. So we are trying to create this. I see this like a big apex, Roman. So this is I think we already done a minor sign of strength here on the previous fall, and now we are creating this like major sign of strength. Yes. So the formation is very constructive. There is present some demand there. So typical low caps, but as I like the fact that volatility is not extreme, even though we have to keep in mind that the last rally was a big rally. Look at the number there. So.
Yeah, I like this rally more than this one. Why? More sustainability. Now, what do I mean by sustainability? Duration increase, right? So again, we know that duration increase in the rally, not in the downward market. That's a completely different thing. Duration in rallies, when they increase, suggests that the buyers are in control. And what do we see from the last rally? They are in control. There is some selling that is coming in. It cannot produce anything except for the trading range. So much more sustainable, and more sustainable rallies are the ones that usually brings us out of the formations.
Here we see another outperformer. We have reviewed this asset many times in our Wyckoff Crypto Discussion. It's still performing quite well, Roman. So we are the moving average is we are just following the moving average here, and then every time we approach the 21, we can just add our position. It's working. So if it is working, we continue to look at the relative strength line. It's a beauty there.
Yeah, and it's working because it's trending, and that's the key. Whenever we trend, that's when you use your moving average strategy that Alessio introduced to us. Alessio, the question here, definitely some buying here on the way up, some buying on the way down. We see that very clearly. What is happening with the volume signature? I think this would be a very, very common question here from our students.
Supply is already in control because the real buying has already happened. So just now we can a period of vertical absorption basically. So
okay. Also, one last thought here: as the points of entry are being identified to us by the touches to the moving averages. Another confirmation of that could be the touch of the moving average on the relative strength, or being close, being in the proximity of closeness to that. You could use, if it doesn't touch the moving average, you could use the breakout strategy here on the relative strength itself as a potential, like, yeah, I gotta get in. Yeah, I gotta get in. So even with that, a slightly delayed signal, but still, I think it's very timely.
So Phoenix, we have reviewed this asset several times. This rally was really good. As Wyckoffans, we want to see an LPS or making up action, so a small reaction here because we can't just buy this rally right now. But Roman, the formation is super constructive, and this is what I think has the look and feel of a 10x. I have to say this. So just look in the historical charts. So
okay, so what is it? Let be specific about what is the characteristic that would identify that as the 10x.
The height of the range first. The fact that the formation is very horizontal, So this is very constructive. And also I like this sign of strength, which is a so vibrant rally with a lot of demand behind it. And so the fact that we are seeing participation now after a period with lower volatility is a very, very good clue.
Okay, yeah. And it's kind of funny, I have those identified for stocks as well, which are the stocks that are going to advance for a very considerable, amount, not necessarily 10x, but definitely not times 2, times 3, but something like, times 4, times 5, something like that. The height of the formation is important because you are kind of showing the ability of the price to advance, and usually it's out of the larger formations you're going to have the largest advance. Causality itself is extremely important because you have to accumulate enough shares throughout the structure by institutions, to have a meaningful advance. What I call urgent demand. This is where, and we see this urgent demand on the way down. Look at how everything here increased relative to the previous volume signature. But specifically here into phase C, low, and then on the sign of strength, we see urgency by institutions to own this asset. So why would they do that? They want to have a meaningful position now, and that advances the price really quickly as they urgently buy. In their estimation, it could be that this is going to be a very significant leadership trend, and leadership trends are sustainable and they produce, a really, really great alpha. Okay, awesome.
So here we see IXS. So honestly, this is a very liquid coin. So we see a down sloping formation in the first part of the range, and then we have all of a sudden we have this big rally, and after that we consolidate. So this is not my classic formation, Roman, because I see some too much liquidity in this asset, but there's no doubt that the asset is outperforming. We have some demand right now, so we can just, I think in this case, we just have to adjust our size to the quality and nature of the instrument. So if we see an instrument which is very illiquid, we can just adjust our size. We don't want to be too aggressive.
Yeah. I'm not expecting that the rally is going to be like this. This is more of kind of like we need to buy. So there is some urgency here as well. But this is slower just because whoever wanted to buy here bought. So there is diminished demand signature over these 2 periods, but it means also that, supply right now is in control of strong hands. Alessio, here also a very big height, a really good cause, and we see some urgency. I mean, like I would be thinking that this could be also, a very attractive long-term campaign candidate.
Great. Now let's talk about some laggard. So we see that we know that Ripple has been lagging the market for a lot of time, but now we see some local outperformance, contraction, volatility. I think this is another case of a laggard that can really, if the market doesn't react here, can really reach the resistance and stall there while the leaders will finally commit to the new highs, Roman. So I like the fact that volatility is contracting a lot, supply is diminishing, and we have some relative strength improvement here.
Yeah, definitely there are some good signs that we're seeing here. Possible breakout out of this, downslope and resistance. So maybe some kind of momentum increase here. That would be nice to see. And am I correct to say that Reaper is actually always kind of behind? Like I remember trading it last year, and the big move came after, advancement in other assets, in other cryptos. So it kind of was lagging. Am I correct on that?
Yes, has been historically, it's been one of the biggest laggards of the history of the crypto market. So
yeah, so just keep that in mind for your execution. All right.
Look, so I like this formation. It's a very unusual formation because we had this someone is thinking about this whole formation like a big trading range romance starting in June. I will just focus on the last trading range and split the chart into parts. So let's focus right now on this consolidation. The absorption that we're seeing here looks classic. So I'm initiating a position right now, and I think this is constructive. The fact the relative trend line was not performing well, I think just due to the fact that this is an apex with a lower high. So this is a case where usually the relative trend line joins the uptrend later.
This is the case study where apex with lower highs. I mean, like usually the idea about the lower highs in the trading range is that it's going to lead to some kind of spring or a shakeout, and it's a really good concept, but it's not necessarily going to work all of the time. It might work majority of the time, but not always. And I think that we are in the case study where it's not working. Actually, in fact, look at this, Alessia, right? So kind of the same idea, lower highs into the apex, lower highs into the apex, and yet we're breaking out right here already. So what would be like indicative that, you know, we might not have the spring, we might actually, you know, go and break out. Look at the reactions, right? So what's happening with the reactions? And look how flat this last reaction is. And this flatness is suggestive that supply is just so low, no way we could, you know, go into a spring. So you gotta catch this to understand that there will be no spring anymore, and that breakout is a much better option.
Yeah, and here's a point of figure chart. So I'm a big fan of percentage scaling, but this is user-defined scaling. And so I'm using 1 point chart. So this is very unusual because we have to check the scaling here and look at, we are still in the lower range of the just between $10 and $20. So I think that half a point would be better for stocks, but we are trading cryptocurrency, so 1 point is is more accurate in this case. And look at the beautiful consolidation that we had, the causality. That count is working very well. So this is warning us that the scaling here is working, and we can use this again.
I like this technique. The technique is all about confirmation of the scale, you know, the box scale itself. So basically, you take some of the formations and then you check on whether they work in terms of reaching out their targets. Are they accurate? And if they are, like Alessia has shown us with this target here, then you say like, yeah, I'm gonna start using those. So therefore, I wonder, Alessia, what's the count here?
This is an exercise for an assignment for our students. So.
Oh, okay, excellent. So
but it's very simple. So one box,
we'll see
it's
the
very
answers
simple.
in the Discord.
Yes.
Yeah? Also, I want to point your attention. I mean, like in the practicum on Tuesday, we were talking. We are covering right now swing analysis, right? And one of the thing about the swing analysis is the cumulative signature of the effort, which is so beautifully done with the PNF, you know, tape reading, and cumulative result in the columns of O's and X's in the PNF. I wish we would do more of this work, and actually, I'm going to make it almost like a mission for myself, you know, to expose us more to the PNF tape reading because it's just so immensely valuable. Look into this decline right here where a downward effort is increasing. So what is happening with the result? We have a sprint situation here that is just a temporary one box commitment and then immediate recovery up. So definitely a sprint, definitely some buying behind this effort versus result. And there are so many great opportunities for us to read the chart better than on the vertical.
Here we see Atom. So we're talked about this asset several times. I was thinking about the position here, man. We just need to see a confirmation. So I think the formation is very constructive. The fact that we are making a higher low right now is good. So we just need the breakout. So I'm thinking about, I really had a small position here, to be honest, but I was streaming in the last 2 weeks. But right now, I think that just a stop buy order on that local resistance would be good.
Yeah, I'd say like 2 levels to watch here. Break the first level, first entry, break the second level, second entry. Why? Well, because we're still relatively away from the resistance of the all-time high, if this is all-time high, I believe. And then you don't want to add anything here. Why? I mean, like every time, look how we are consolidating around the high. So we're gonna come here and we're gonna stop and we're gonna consolidate. And if this is a bullish scenario, this should be better than this or this or this. But we have to get there. So coming into the position prior to that makes a lot of sense.
So this is a very nasty asset, Roman, because the texture of this asset is very low liquidity, so it's kind of difficult to trade. Look at that, the way we are creating all that volatility on the intraday. But I still think this is the path of least resistance to the upside for this asset, Roman. So look at the relative strength line; is beautiful there. So I think at least we are going to retest that spike that we had a few weeks ago. So something like that.
I mean, upsloping, we had some supplies, some volatility in phase A and early phase B. And then after that, it's just like nothing is going on. This is the period of inactivity. I mean, like there are certain, bars where you have supply, demand coming in, but majority of the activity takes place on the rally. It has some supply behind it. That supply materializes into the backup action, which is a flat trading range right here after the initial reaction, and just continuation. And that's it.
Okay, great. So let's skip this chart because it's a repetition. Okay. So waves, we see a lot of volume and participation in this rally. I think this is the same story that we're seeing for other assets that have been leading during the reaction and now probably they need to rest because there's a lot of volume there. Usually we want to see a good reaction, like a flat reaction. We want to tire the market participant that have been able to get in here, and after that, this will be a massive consolidation. Look at this formation; it's really huge. So.
Yeah, so this last diminishing demand signature is suggestive that yes, maybe locally we might, consolidate here. And look at where it happens, where we prior stopped, where we stopped before. So very logical stop in action there.
This is questioned by Lola on BSG. So basically, I see here there's a consolidation here in the extreme oversold area of this down channel. So usually I want to focus just on the outperformer because the outperformers are the asset that can really shine and give us 10x move. I don't think this is the case for Bitcoin Cash, but there is an opportunity for the short term here. I think this asset can easily reach the top of that trend line, the downsloping trend line, and then rest there. What do you think, Roman?
Well, I mean, like it's just fascinating to look at this chart and compare it to the Bitcoin chart itself, because there are vast differences, but there are also so many similarities. And then I like how the rally here develops. I mean, this is definitely much more aggressive as the breakout that we're seeing most, currently, and that is suggestive that of some kind of potential continuation. The only problem here is just a local sign of supply, but we just have to see and wait how we could absorb that. And yeah, I would say like this is definitely a really good target.
Yes, I would just use this as a short opportunity, but not as a long-term investment. Absolutely not. So, and here we see KNC. So the basically on the daily, we've seen that momentum is slowing down. And look at the weekly. So there's definitely a big causality, but we could be right now in the sign of strength. And what comes after sign of strength? A big cap action. So
Yeah. So definitely that whole idea that we've talked about today about rotation from the assets that were outperforming, they were considered, the flight to quality assets, and now that the overall market is strengthening, so obviously those are going to be less attractive, and undervalued assets might become more attractive. All right, Alessia, your final thoughts?
well, there's definitely more participation in this market this week, and we are not seeing a lot of supply in the stock market, so this is constructed at least for another small move. So, Roman, I think that this is an environment where you can start to operate and be slightly more aggressive, and this could be like the beginning of a move.
Yeah, I would concur on Alessia's thoughts here. We got to be a little bit more aggressive. We got to be having more positions at this point. We have to commit more capital, and we really have to think about how rotation is going on. And hopefully, this session today, guys, have shown you all of the ideas about assets that are outperforming and then they're starting to underperform. And we've talked about the reasons why. So just keep that in mind. With that, thank you so much, guys, for watching. And Alessia, thank you. Great session.
Thank you, Roman.